a sustainable product service system innovation. When we speak about system innovation, it's not just about SPSS, but together with distributed economy that we will see in the next lecture, are say the two most promising models. And we will see, we will start to understand something about what type of innovation we are speaking about, recalling something that we understood from the last lecture of the other time. Then I will make an introduction to sustainable product service system. We will see three main typology of SPSS, and at the end with some cases, and at the end what are the main characteristics. Okay, so we will make this through this path. So sustainability, what kind of system innovation? You remember we understood that we have to reduce by around 90% the consumption of resources if we compare to the per capita consumption of the most industrialized country. Okay? Considering all the three dimensions of sustainability, so we are making repetition of sustainable development and so on. Okay? Resilience, the equity principle, and so on. These magnitudes of change, saying that we need for a radical change, we need to act now in relation to this, when we take the discourse towards the designer, and we start to speak about innovation, and so what we understood is that we have to promote even system innovation. Not only, but even and necessarily even system innovation. So the improvement, if in this case we have a product, it's a clothes, could be whatever product, it's not just on the product in itself, but on all of the stakeholders, the actor, they take part. So when we speak about promoting and system innovation, it's not just in relation to a single product, but to all of the system of the actor, of the stakeholder, that are part of the wider system of production and consumption related to that single flow. Okay, we saw something about the life cycle. We understood that maybe there are different actors along the life cycle, as in this case. What you see here is a tool that you will use. It's called a system map, in which that you will use to design. Some of you maybe may know if they are coming from PSSD course, even though we have a slightly different system map because we want to highlight something, but nevertheless, here what we design is the configuration of the actor. So not only the configuration of the product, the architecture of the product, but the architecture of the system. So what are the different actors that can take part of it, and what are the interactions? To start, one point could be, one question, one query could be, but are the manufacturers incentivized by economic reason to design product with a low environmental impact? So indeed, adopting life cycle design approach, as we have approach, method, tools, and whatever, as we have understood before. Are those manufacturers even interested in offering this product to lower income people in context. Indeed, in a traditional offer sale market model, that is not true, at least in an industrialized context. Many times, the manufacturers are indeed incentivized in economic terms substitute as soon as possible the product that they are selling. We are speaking about technological obsolescence. Maybe we said already something about that. Okay? So, because if they sell a product, but then after the 2 years of warranty, the product doesn't work anymore, it's too costly to be maintained, to be repaired, and whatever, they can sell a new one, their turnover may get bigger. So actually, the adoption of life cycle design approach, strategy, guidelines, and tools indeed is not all the time in line with an economic interest of the manufacturer in a traditional sale product model offer. Okay. And the second key question is that are there other offer models in which we find win-win solution, so in which the manufacturer is interested in pushing the designer to design low environmental impact product, to design something and to offer something that is accessible even to low-income people in context, or to improve even social equity and cohesion? The answer is yes. It's not with what we hear. So and these offer models are called sustainable product resistance. Let's start with an introduction, okay? And I want to make you a preliminary example. So we have a traditional offer of a dishwasher and an offer of a dishwasher, but as an PSS, okay? Offering a solution to enable the user to wash the dish, okay? But we will see this a little bit better with this scheme. So here there is a dishwasher manufacturer that is selling the dishwasher to the user, to any of us, to you, and then the user is paying the dishwasher. Okay, traditional way of offering product. This is another case. It's a real case. It's with the header that is offering dishwasher together with the detergent and with some services as a package, and the user pay per wash. So it's not pay to purchase the washing machine, neither the detergent and other services. So a key difference here is the ownership of the product, where the ownership remains or goes. In the first case, the traditional case, the ownership goes to the user. In the second case, the ownership of the product remains by the manufacturer. Okay, here. So they have this system. Is Winter Header has a paper wash in which the payment is based on the number of washes, and include the delivery of the dishwasher at home, the installation, the dishwasher that is not owned, and has all-inclusive the delivery of detergent and other service for maintenance, monitoring, remote mode, and other things, as well as the collection at the end of life of this same product. So to go on and to add something, we have the delivery of the dishwasher, the table, even the rack, the detergent, the offer in terms of maintenance, upgrading, and remote. And what they are doing, they are reading even about the end of collection, towards a disposal center, whatever happened to the disposal center, and they are paying for this, while the user is just paying for the number of washes. And here we come with some first preliminary consideration. We see much more detail in after a while about the win-win or the convergence between the economic and the environmental, and the economic and the socio-ethical benefits in this situation. So let's see first the economic and environmental benefits. And then I wrote in parentheses life cycle design strategies. You know what's life cycle design now, at least you have an idea about it. Okay? Well, during the production phase, nothing changed that much. In the sense that the producer, when he's producing the dishwasher, is interested in using as less energy as possible, using as less material as possible, because this is a cost for the company. So saying that they have to design something that is into the market and well designed and whatever it is, indeed there is a direct interest in reducing resource consumption. And since resource has even environmental impact, here is not a great difference. During the use phase, something changed compared to the other situation, because, as we said before, now the provider has the economic interest in reducing resource consumption. In this case, it's detergent. If they reduce the detergent consumption, since the detergent is all-inclusive offer to the user, as less detergent is used, better it is for the company, because the company will have to produce less detergent, buy less material to produce the detergent, deliver, transport less detergent to the final user, and so on. Okay? So there is a direct economic interest in reducing resource consumption. There is as well an economic interest in product lifespan extension, something that we learned before. That's why I said it was important to say something about life cycle design strategy. So to design long-lasting product. And to make it easy, either the use or the remanufacturing or the use of some components. Why? Because if this lasts longer, since they remain the owner of this dishwasher, they don't have to produce a new one, buy new material, and so on, and take care about the disposal. Oops. And what about the disposal phase? They have an interest, an economic interest, in designing for recycling. Why? Because if they can use some material that they get back from and how the dishwasher, as a deal, they have to collect back. Well, they have it there in their own home, let's say. If they can recycle some material, so they don't have to pay for the disposal or the landfill of this material, and they don't have to pay for purchasing new material, they become an economic interest for them. And what about the socio-ethical benefit? This is something that we introduced in the other lecture very, very lightly. I don't know how much you remember, but anyhow, there is even in this type of offer a cut of the initial investment cost, the purchasing cost. So I don't have to buy a dishwasher, which may be very expensive. And so some people with a low income, with a low salary, without a salary, they would not be able to purchase this product. Okay? So in this offer model, this cost doesn't exist because they will pay per use, and so this is something that is much more affordable and accessible to these people. And there are even some other life cycle service costs. So if this product is there, but then it breaks, if it breaks and the maintenance costs too much, or the buying of a new dishwasher is too costly, they will stop using this product. Okay? In this introduction, I want to highlight another important thing. Okay? Here I make two examples. It's not a dishwasher. It's an example that you know much better because you find it all around, even here in Milan, even though these two cases are not in Milan, but it's Zipcar and River Simple. The first case, Zipcar, okay, is a car sharing service, so anyhow they have the ownership of the car, it's a sustainable part service system, but they are buying the car from a car manufacturer. Okay? In the case of River Simple, is a bit different. It's the same River Simple that is producing the car. It's the same car manufacturer. Okay? So here, okay, we have the product ownership, but the manufacturer is outside. In the other case, the ownership remains by the service provider, but the service provider is even the car manufacturer. The consequence of, oops, I went too fast. The consequence of this that you may get that in this case the economic incentive, the possibility to influence how the car is designed, here is much lower. Here, the service provider can only select the best car that is on the market, okay? The most efficient. The one that has the system that stop the engine to work when you are at the cross light or whatever it is, and so on. But it's not directly impacting because it's not the one that is producing the car. In the other situation, the service provider is telling immediately to the designer, you have to design the most effective car, the car that is consuming less energy, less fuel as possible, is using renewable resources, the most long-lasting product, the one that could be recycled the best way, and so on. So there is indeed much more direct influence on the production. Okay? And this is just to have an introduction to that. Okay, now we go to see some few examples in the three main typology of PSS. The first case, this is Kluber. Kluber is offering lubricants to company. But then it was a while when they decided to offer not only the lubricants, but to add some services, so selling the lubricants. So you will see this is slightly different from the other, from the example that we saw before, but it's the first type of SPSS. So indeed, Kluber is offering to the customer, the manufacturer of staff, for example, they need lubricants, okay? So they sell lubricant to this engineering industry, and they add a service to analyze the best way in which they can use the lubricants that they are using into the same factory. Okay? And so they have a van. With a van, they go on site, they analyze the system, they know very well how the lubricant works, so they offer the service. And they make a report, and at the end they say, well, if you do this, and you do this, and you do this, you will optimize the use of the lubricants. At the end, you will use less lubricants. Okay? They offer even a service to minimize those lubricants at the end. It could be very toxic, to reduce the toxicity of the lubricants, so to reduce in different way, to recycle, or to reduce the spilling off, or the different way in which this could be optimized. Okay, so they make again an analysis about it, having all the knowledge again about the lubricants, so they are in a good position of doing that. And the customer, this engineering industry, pay per this package. So they indeed, in this case, pay the lubricants, so they pay the product. It's a consumable in this case, but they pay the product by the add the service. But we see that we move from merely offering and selling lubricants to offering lubrication solution. So not just the lubricants, but something with services related to other phases of the life cycle of product. Okay? So, cycle now. You get the point why it was important to say something. In this kind of innovation, what is important is that the innovation is not just a technological innovation, but it will be even a technological innovation, but is, in the first stage, an innovation in the way in which the two stakeholders, the two actors interact. So, what change? What changes is that, okay, they are selling lubricants, but they are not just selling lubricants and say, hello, we won't see any more, everything up, it's up to you. No, they have a continuous relation because they offer this service for optimizing the use and optimizing the end of life treatment. So the interest is not only to sell lubricants, but even to offer these services. But these services have the advantage, indeed, of reducing the consumption of lubricants, so reducing the consumption of resources, reducing the impact of the disposed lubricant, so what remain after the use of the same lubricants. Okay? And so you said the company are losing money because they are not selling, they are selling less lubricant. No, they get some money by the services. And then you say, oh, but then the companies pay more because they have to pay the services. No, it depends, because what they said, there is a gain share. Since anyhow there is a less consumption of lubricant, since there is less cost due to the very costly treatment of the end of life of this, well, these are costs. So if you make a system that cost overall has a lower cost, this cost could be shared between the two partners. They are not partners, but in this case, we can call almost two partners. Okay? This is the first type of SPSS. It's the most radical one. We start with that. We call it product-oriented SPSS. So it's a sustainable product service adding value to product life cycle. as we have seen in this case. If we can speak in a more general term, is a situation, I did this together with you, in which a company or organization or an alliances of company, it could be, provide all-inclusive life cycle services. That could be the one that we saw before, optimization during use, but it could be the installation, maintenance, repair, upgrade, and flight collection, and so on, to guarantee the life cycle performance of this product or even semi-finished product. That could be the one that we have seen before, that is indeed sold to the customer. In this case, it's sold to the customer. Okay? So what we see in this case is, as in the one that was exemplified before, the responsibility of the customer is reduced during the life cycle services, because something is on the shoulder of the one that is offering this, and since she's paying all inclusive this type of services. Okay, this is the first type. We're going on to see a second type. River Simple. River Simple is, we are in UK, even this is a start from a colleague from Cranfield University several years ago. Anyhow, they are offering a paper mount. It's a kind of car sharing, but it's a little bit different. It's a paper mount mobility solution, in which they offer ownerless car with all inclusive a set of services, and these are provide the car, the energy that is used by the car to move, the maintenance, the repair, the end-of-life connection, and the car is not owned by the provider as in any car sharing system. And the customer, as we said before, they pay all this package as a paper month, in a paper month modality. And here, the business moved from selling car to offering mobility solution. And again, what we see, the innovation is at first an innovation in terms of new interaction among the different stakeholders. Then it becomes even a technological innovation, okay? Because they are offering ownerless car with all inclusive these life cycle services that we have seen. That foster the design of long-lasting product, because they remain in their ownership, so they avoid some cost and so on. They design a very efficient car, because if they are paid per month, they have to pay the energy to fuel this car as less energy, as less fuel support, type of energy that they are using. They have to provide better it is, so it's higher the income, and as well they design for easy recycling. This is a second type of PSS. We call it use-oriented sustainable product service system, and more in general is a sustainable service system as an enabling platform for customers. What we mean by this is a situation in which a company or an alliances of company provide access to product, tools, opportunity that enable the customer to get their own satisfaction, to use, to move from one place to another, as we saw in the other case, but could be some many other things, like to have, in case of dishwasher, to have dish wash the dish wash a dish. Okay. In this case, differently from the case that we saw before, the customer doesn't own the product, whatever product it is, but operate on the product. Okay, he's driving the car, so he's operating on the product to obtain their own satisfaction. Here we go to a third type of SPSS, and we will see that there is a different characteristic. This is Philips offering so-called paperless solution. Here is Philips. What they are offering? They are offering a package deal with a lighting equipment, so the lighting system, all is needed for the lighting, so not only the bulbs or to make the light, but all the sensor, whatever is needed for the lighting system, plus some services for what they agree to have some lux. You know, lux what is the quantity of light that you have per surface. Okay, so what is needed to be able to read or to work, to be able to work. Okay, so indeed what you need a light. You enjoy to have a nice light, but indeed for the type of work you need to have a certain amount of light over your desk or wherever it is. Okay. So Philips install all the system, take care about the maintenance, which is not owned by the customer, and all the software and the equipment that are needed to feel about this system. So they have some sensor, for example, to know if there is some light that is coming from outside, so that they may reduce the consumption of energy that is inside, and so on, and many other things. And the customer pay per lux, so pay just per light. So they pay for what we will see in a while, what we call unit of satisfaction. So what is the satisfaction that we need? So again, here we move from selling lighting product to offering lux, to offering the light that we. And even here, the innovation is innovation in terms of new interaction among stakeholders, because you're offering orderless lighting system with all-inclusive lifecycle services, as we see. As you may have understood, they are interested in taking the ownership to have a long-lasting lighting system, and consume less, that can be recycled at the end of the life, and so on. Okay. This third type of SPSS is called result-oriented SPSS, or sustainable service system, providing final results to customers. So they are is a company or organization, even institutional organization or an NGO. I mean, not necessarily a company, could be even another type of organization that offer a customized mix of products and services for a specific final results, like having a light, okay, to the customer. In this case, what changed from what we saw before, it doesn't change the fact that the producer retain the ownership and offer these services, but they are offering indeed really the final result. So they take care about it's kind of a full service. So they are, in the other case, the enabling platform or use-oriented, people were using the car, okay, or they were washing the dishes. In this case, the system is performing to have, well, yes, of course, there is some freedom to switch on and off the light and so on, but the system is indeed offered as a final result, so that the light is optimized by the company in relation to some requirement the clients can give. But it's really dealing all the things. So the difference is that in this case is really a full service. Okay? Yes, please. What happens like when you purchase your online connection? When you purchase your online connection to now a connection is a little bit different because yes, because here we have an implication of hardware on which we may design to last longer and so on. And in the case of this type of offer in which you take a service and maybe together with the service you buy even a mobile, you buy a mobile phone, or you take a mobile phone for 2 years and you have the offer. So it's a PSS. Indeed, this is not so sustainable. But I have an example about this, so I will come later on to this topic. So sorry to interrupt, but since I'm going to reply to this. But it's not really the key point that you have to take into consideration. It's not that intangible is so intangible, because intangible many times has the consumption of energy, so it's very tangible. Okay, so this is not so. And it depends if the consumption of energy is paid by the service provider or it's paid by you. When they offer you a system to have internet at home, they are not saying we pay the energy that is used by your internet connection. If they would say so, then it's different. Yes, maybe if they offer the, sorry, then I make it longer. If they offer the product, the modem, let's say, and the modem is in their ownership, in this case, they could be interested in offering a product that lasts long. Yes. If this was what you meant, yes. Yeah, sorry. Now I get the point. Here I have a scheme that was produced by a colleague a few years ago. I told you SPSS has been studied since the beginning of 2000, so it's not something so new, even though still need to be much more diffused. We saw so we saw product-oriented, use-oriented, and result-oriented. This was Kluber, so it was a product-oriented, adding value to product lifecycle, in which the product component was much bigger, let's say. Then we have use-oriented, in which we were providing an enabling platform for customer, but the customer was still using the product, so service component was much higher, not high as in the result-oriented, in which we may go towards really full services. Okay. We have seen now the three main typology of sustainable purpose service system, so you start to get a bit more knowledge about that. Let's see now a definition about sustainable product service system. So prefer to give a definition after you have understood something, not to cut too blurry. Oh, actually, before the definition, I have still a diagram to show the three main shifts of NSPSS. So we move from selling product to selling what we call a unit of satisfaction. We are not selling the product, we are selling it's a paper wash, so to have something washed. We sell light for a given square meter, so the light that they need to do that and so on. The customer value is not that much in terms of individual ownership. In one case, yes, there is still the individual ownership, the first type, product oriented, you remember, but it's more on access or sharing in some cases. And the innovation is not at the first stage a technological innovation, it is at the first stage in innovation in terms of new configuration of the stakeholder of the value production system. We saw at the beginning, okay, we don't look just to the code, but to all of the actors of the system of the value production system, okay? And this has a win-win potential. So it's an offer model that is in which is providing a mix of products and services, is economically incentivized in offering low environmental hardware or product and giving access to these products and services even to low income contexts. We will see these things better in the next presentation, so we will be more in detail. So here is the definition that you can find, of course, in that book, but it's even there. So a sustainable product service system is defined as an offer model providing, reading this together with you, providing an integrated mix of products and services that are together able to fulfill a particular customer demand, to deliver what we call a unit of satisfaction, which is based on an innovative interaction among the stakeholders, which is based on an innovative interaction among the stakeholders, where, and this is a characteristic, the ownership of the product and or the life cycle cost and responsibility remain by the provider. The ownership and or the life cycle cost or responsibility remain by the provider, so that the economic interest of the same provider continuously foster the same provider to design something, or to say to the designer, to the service designer, to the product service system designer, to design something that is with a low environmental impact and even accessible to low income contexts and so on, having even beneficial solution for the same company.
What is the issue of high income?
Sorry?
For high income countries, like
it's the same.
I still want to serve because I have assumed that people also want to invest.
Yeah, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I mean, like if you like earn a lot of money, I maybe think that they also want to invest in materials, or maybe like is it the same business model for high income?
Yes, this could be the case. I mean, they don't have this kind of problem of deciding to buy stuff that are buy stuff, to buy product. They may have access even to products that are with a lower price. Many times, even rich people, they prefer to buy. But this is indeed not the problem. If we look to the low and middle income context, this is indeed why should I buy a car when I may have access to another mobility system that is not in my ownership and maybe have better quality and better value and so on. Indeed, this is not the case of who has a lot of money decide to spend and pollute as much as they want. Hopefully this is not happening. Many rich take rockets and go to the moon. They are polluting quite a lot. But they are a minority, very powerful. But here the point is anyhow to highlight that there are the possibility for a big majority of the population to have access to this product, and why not even to definitely to the business class, why not, but even to the other, hopefully. So then I would like to say something about why we have this big gap between the rich and the poor. That for me it's illegal or should be illegal, but this is another issue. So we should really find a policy by which we may have such a monopoly that may let some corporation to become so rich. So this is another discourse. And so I stop this here, and maybe I have to cut away from my presentation. We can discuss this in another context. There was another colleague speaking about capitalism. Let's go on with this without saying that what you said is not important. It is. So to conclude this part, some main characteristics of SPSS. So to sum up, we can say they are rooted in what we may call a satisfaction-based economic model. So each offer is indeed developed and designed thinking in relation to a unit of satisfaction. So something that I may think that could be a desire, a wish, a want, a need for someone. Okay, so to have things clothed, to have things washed, to be able to move from one place to the other, to be able to study, to be able to do something, to enjoy the life, to eat, and to do. Okay, so this is the first issue. Okay, so the first point is to move up to that level and then to design the mix of products and services that may enable to do this. And this is quite interesting because then the level of innovation that you can reach could be indeed very, very much more radical. Because if you move from just thinking, for example, to I'm offering car, no, I'm moving towards mobility. But maybe I could even say, okay, mobility I can offer in different way. Maybe mobility is needed to go to the school or to go by the doctor to get a recipe, or to go to a recipe by the doctor. But maybe I neither need to go by the doctor because I can have some screening could be made online and can get the recipe by email. So I neither need for the same unit of satisfaction. I may neither need one piece of hardware, which is a car or something else. Okay, so it may lead to much more radical innovation. Okay, so it's very interesting. It's even very challenging for me. In design terms, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. The second characteristic is that the innovation is stakeholder configuration-based innovation. Okay, so as we have seen the different examples, the innovation at first stage is not a technological or a technical innovation, is an innovation in terms of new interaction among the different stakeholders of a value production system. And then, of course, it comes even that they are interested in doing some very interesting technological, technical, or social type of innovation. Okay? Last but not least, this is why we are making this course, that there is an intrinsic win-win sustainability potential. These are innovations in which the company, or more in general, the organization, has the economic or may have the economic and competitive interest to offer environmentally, socio-ethically, and economically beneficial solution, even for them as well as for the customer.